Well, good afternoon, good morning to all of our viewers from around the world, I guess. My name's Gavin, Grenville-Wood. I'm just in London, and like to welcome our two amazing panelists that don't need much of an introduction, but one of the world's greatest golf coaches in David Leadbetter. Morning, David. How are you?
Good morning. Morning, everybody.
And of course, Jennifer Bermingham, who is one of our LPGA ambassadors, who's got a great story to tell about her journey from being a junior golfer right up to playing at the very highest level and now being one of the champion coaches within the LPGA network. So welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So great to have you both, and great to have so many people tuning in. We are in celebration mode. Apologies, you didn't get the champagne. It might get delivered tomorrow. We're celebrating the birth of a new relationship with the LPGA Foundation and the LPGA Girls Golf initiative. The Leadbetter Academy is renowned for a number of things, but I know certainly coach education is at the very, very heart of what we do at the Academy. And this partnership is really the fruit of 6 months worth of work that we've been doing behind the scenes, a conversation that started really around being able to partner with the LPGA Girls Golf program to roll that out across many of our academies across the world. But that conversation soon evolved into creating this education resource for the LPGA coaches, professionals, and girls golf site leaders. So it's an amazing opportunity, and as much as it benefits, the LPGA professionals and of course the Leadbetter Academy, we cannot forget that the ones that will benefit the most from this will be the girls and boys that actually take part in the programs on the back of the coaches becoming more skilled and having greater knowledge. So I'll just turn to you quickly, David, just to get your reaction on the announcement of the partnership and what it means to you.
Well, I'm very excited because our goal really is to educate, whether it be educate golfers or educate coaches, and the LPGA is such a great organization. I've had a long association with the LPGA, and having my wife Kelly playing on the LPGA for a number of years, and I know how good a job they do in the teaching field, and certainly the number of young girls that are in the game now are largely due to the members of the LPGA. I mean, they're very passionate, which is obviously one of the major factors in coaching, having that passion. And it's wonderful to see all these young girls now. I mean, we look on the LPGA and you look at the number of foreign players that are playing, and I think it's high time really that the locals get going. I mean, it's not that they don't have the talent. It's as if the girls in foreign countries tend to specialize maybe a little bit earlier, and it's really only in the later teenage years or maybe middle teenage years that a lot of the girls in the US decide, well, maybe golf's my deal. And so as we know, you get to a certain age where you've got to put your heart and soul into the game. It's hard to be a part-time player at 15 years of age. I'm all for playing all sports growing up, for sure, but I think there are so many great athletes, and you look at all the different sports in this country, for girls, particularly basketball, soccer, etc. And it's amazing really that there aren't more star players on the tour, but I think it's about to change. And I think when you look at the potential, really, I always say to parents, listen, it's probably one of the I won't say easiest ways, but it's certainly a great way of being able to get your daughter to college if she has any love for the game. And we all know, let's face it, I'm sure you agree there, Jennifer, I mean, man or woman, they always say, I wish I'd started earlier. Boy, I wish I'd started at, their kids' age or what have you. So, I mean, getting youngsters into golf, I mean, I think it's such a factor from a standpoint of, listen, we know how golf parallels life, and it creates, I think, a certain type of individual. I mean, if you're going to be a golfer of any sort of stature, we know that in order to get there. So it's a wonderful sport, and I think, I mean, when I last heard, I think more girls than boys were actually taking up the game. So that's all credit to, largely down, I think, to the LPGA.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jennifer, you're a champion golf coach. I love your story. The program that you run in California is fantastic. But what does this partnership mean to you, and what will it look like for the future as an LPGA professional?
Yeah, so really, thank you for having me. I just think this is going to be a dynamic, awesome partnership. I think it's a mutual win-win, and I think you're right. In the long term, the kids are the ones that are the real winners. But just as an LPGA professional, I feel like my training from the ground up has been awesome, and the LPGA has so many great resources that I've been able to utilize and really create my craft. And having David Leadbetter being associated with the LPGA is just his expertise and his knowledge to add to an already outstanding curriculum is just going to make it next level. And for the Leadbetter Academy to implement more girls golf sites and have more of an impact in those junior golf in your academies, I think it's just going to, for me, I always think it's not the number of kids that you impact or the size of your program, but for me, it's the size of the individual impact that you make, whether it's a kid or an adult. When you can make that impression and you can they take that with them for the rest of your life, that's what it's about. And by partnering together, I feel like we'll continue to grow that and make those impressionable impacts more often.
Well, I think, you know, one of the most impressive things from my perspective is the impact I think you've had, David, with so many LPGA players. You know, I think you've steered so many careers in the right direction, but I think you're probably proudest of having coached some of the world's best coaches as well. Is that right?
Yes, I think it was sort of I won't say an afterthought, but it was sort of a byproduct, shall we say, the fact that we expanded and created a large number of academies around the world. So training coaches really became part of it. And yeah, I'm excited about the fact that we've had some really some great coaches come through our system. You know, people like Karen Jansen, who obviously he's won LPGA Teacher of the Year, and so it's nice to be able to, I think, help people in their careers too, not only just golfers, but it's very important for me to help players or former players in many cases who, like Jennifer, who got into teaching now, and it's such a worthwhile career. It's so rewarding. I mean, you know, I have a similar story many years ago, Jennifer, where, you know, I didn't quite make it as a tour player, and I turned to coaching. I mean, I've been coaching an awful long time, but it's always, to me, I mean, yes, if you're successful in what you do, I mean, if you do a good job, you're going to be successful. As a coach, it's always been the reward of actually seeing a smile on a player's face, no matter what level of player they are, or a coach who's able to get a great job at a club through having been through our organization. So, you know, it's not all money. It's just the fact that, you know, you feel like you're contributing and really helping the profession. So yeah, from a standpoint of that, Gavin, yeah, it's been very rewarding, the fact that we've seen a lot of great coaches come through our system.
Yeah, and sometimes we can't even measure the impact that we have until much later on, when you see a coach evolving, or a human being just evolving into, they grow into their own lives. And I think that's the impact that I know we can have as coaches. I just want to move on and just briefly talk about what you feel are the qualities required to be a great golf coach. I'm going to give you, I want you to give us your top three, but one of the whole reasons for this partnership is to just give the skills, the knowledge, and the tools to more coaches around the world so that they can deliver great programs to their students. And we specialize in golf coaching. This is exactly what we do. So I think for those watching this and those that are interested in developing their careers, we're here to help, and it's absolutely something that I feel they need to get involved with if coaching is in their future. So what would you say is the number one quality required, David, to be a world-class golf coach?
I think really, I mean, there's obviously a few factors here, but I think number one is that you really want to help people. Okay, I mean, whether you involved in charities or whatever the case may be, I think it behooves us to want to help people. And so helping people, I mean, we know what the game of golf means to so many people, right? It's more than just a sport or a hobby. It's in many cases it's a way of life. And so by bringing a little bit more joy to people, I mean, in essence, I mean, I suppose if you refine it all down, the better people play, the more they enjoy this game, right? And so that's our goal really, is to help people enjoy it more, and no matter what their talent level is, and certainly for us to fulfill their potential. So I think helping people is an absolute must. I mean, if you're just doing it, I mean, I've seen coaches who've just done it. I mean, there's players on tour who just do it because they don't actually love the game. They do it because it's a living. And I think, when you're spending all that time out there, I mean, it's hard work. Let's face it, you're out in the heat of the day. You're up at all hours. You get to a point, you're getting phone calls all hours of the day and night there, and so you better enjoy it. I mean, if you're not going to enjoy it and you want to help people, I mean, it can be a long, tiresome type of job. But as I say, I think you just got to love it and just want to help people, and I think that's the number one trait in my opinion.
Excellent. So loving to help people improve. What do you think about that, Jennifer?
I would agree. And, I think for me, having a student do something that they didn't even dream was possible before they got to the lesson tee, and then watching them grow. I always think of a golf lesson, or every student that I have is kind of like a flower or a plant. And every single time they come to the lesson tee, or every single time they practice or play golf, they're tending that plant and watering that plant. And sometimes you got to throw out some weeds, and sometimes you got to add fertilizer. And so, watching those seeds, plant those seeds and watching them grow, I think is really the fulfillment of being a golf coach.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have the opportunity to shape lives, don't we? And golf is a fantastic vehicle to implement various life skills, certainly when we're talking about dealing with children. So just move on from that. We'll come to part two in just a second, but you, Jennifer, have had a great journey, I think, and I love how you've come from player to coach. I believe that you would have had a successful career playing, but you found a love for coaching. Just tell us a little bit about your journey, and how then becoming more skilled and, I guess, educated as a coach, how that's now helping you in your career.
Well, I've always been a lifelong learner. I think that's really, really important to continue to get educated. I played college golf at UC Riverside, and after college, I went to Q school and got my full Symetra card. And my first season, my grandmother got sick, and I came home to take care of her. And I took a job at LA County Junior Golf teaching kids, and I really fell in love with it. And my teaching career kind of blossomed from there. I qualified for the 2016 KPMG PGA Championship, so it was my first taste on the LPGA, and I loved it. I thought it was I always liken that week to like a Make-A-Wish week that I earned, which was even better. From there, I went back to Q school again, and
it was only so good because you made the cut.
I did make the cut. Oh my gosh. It was really neat to see me on TV, to see the reaction from my junior golfers, and they really thought I was a celebrity. And I mean, people still do, and it's really neat. And from there, I went back to Q school, and I thought maybe it's my chance to go back to playing golf. And I never really had that opportunity out of college. And I got my Symmetric Q school for card for 2017. And when I was out there, I realized how much, going back to what David was saying, how much I love helping people. And when I was out playing tournaments, I didn't get that fulfillment of actually helping people. And my true passion, my true calling was teaching golf. So after that year, I dove right back into teaching golf, and I haven't looked back. And it's been a really great journey. And, you know, talking about continuing education, I just got my specialization in my PGA credential. So I'm always looking to improve. I'm always looking how to get more knowledge. Learning from David, what am I doing the same as him? What can I do a little better? You know, and I think that's just how I'm going to continue to grow as a coach, continue to grow as a player, and, you know, continue to help people.
Fantastic. That's a great story. I love it. And yeah, disappointed that you missed a bit out about making the cut. That's something to shout about. So,
well, can I tell a quick story? At KPMG, David, I think you'll appreciate this. I was on the driving range, and I'm hitting balls, and the one, the only Lydia Ko starts hitting golf balls next to me. And I do the only thing that I know how to do is I turn to my caddy and I say, hand me my driver. And I start hitting my driver as hard as I can. And she starts looking back at me because it's making quite a loud sound. And who's that girl back there? Because I don't recognize her. It was a great feeling.
Very good. That's awesome. Did you outdrive her?
The secret is safe with me. I'll never tell.
Very good, very good. So yeah, I love that story. That's great stuff. So just moving on to the number 2 in the charts for the qualities of a world-class golf coach. Where do you see what's going in at number 2, David?
Well, it ties in a little bit to number 1. I just think passion, and we can just, you know, listen to Jennifer here, how passionate she is, and that's really important, because that rubs off on the people that you're with. I mean, you know, it's hard. I mean, hey, we all go through ups and downs in life, and it's hard every day to get up and feel like, you know, that, you know, everything's great and wonderful, and but yet, you know, the people you're working with, they really don't care. They don't know. So you know, you've sort of got to put on, almost, you've got to be an actor or actress or whatever the term is these days, in order to, you know, make somebody really enjoy the time that you're with them. So, you know, having that passion, and obviously passion extends to things like passion to learn, passion to, you know, we have a saying there, Jennifer, we who dare to teach. It wasn't my saying, it was actually a gentleman from the PGA when I first came up many years ago. You know, it always resonated with me, and he said, we who dare to teach must never cease to learn. So that's the exciting thing about this sport, this game. I mean, even at my advanced stage in my career, you know, you're still constantly learning, and you're finding better ways to sort of get the message across. So it's you know, it's a multifaceted game. Let's face it. I mean, look, I mean, no other sport can you go onto YouTube and find over 7 million pieces of advice on how to. I mean, there's no way. So, and so there's always that. You know, I mean, I always remember. You know, I've been with Callaway for over 20 years now, and originally I was hired by the great Ely Callaway, and he said, David, he said, you know. Said, you and I were in the same business. And I said, how's that, Ely? He says, we're in the business of selling hope. And so I thought about it, and you think, you know, hey, Callaway make golf clubs and et cetera, because everybody hopes that these are going to be the trick. This is going to be the secret, right? And people take lessons from us. I mean, why do they do it? Not just to, they do it because of the fact that, hey, I think I could get better. I think maybe Jennifer could help me to sort of get to another level. And so we're always living in hope, and that's the message that we've got to keep pushing out there. Hey, there is hope, and no matter what level of player you are. And it's a very rewarding game in many respects, because you can get better. I always say, the golf ball doesn't know how old you are, so even older people can get to a point where they can improve, enjoy the game more. But that takes a lot of passion, a lot of commitment from a coach and a teacher, because you're essentially taking somebody on who you're trying to help them improve their quality of life in many respects. So I think passion is something that all great teachers have. Some of them maybe, I think in America, they probably express it a little bit more than maybe we do in our part of the world there, Gavin. But yet, the great teachers are very passionate, and you can see everybody on social media now who has that passion. Yes, they want to get ahead, they want to create a name for themselves, but that's fine. And so I think passion is a big thing.
Yeah, excellent. And your passion shines through, Jennifer, pretty abundantly. So, I mean, what really excites you? We talked about really loving to help people improve, but where does your passion come from for this? Where do you think it evolved?
I think it came from me being a junior golfer, is just the love that I got out of being at the golf course, the community that I had when I was a young kid at the golf course, and just watching my progress and watching my success throughout my life has been a way that's really created the passion. And another great source of my passion is I was the younger sister that did everything my big brother did, and he always beat me at everything except when we played golf. So that's always been a great source of my motivation. But going back to your quote, David, one of my favorite quotes is, teachers that love teaching teach students how to love learning. I think that's really, really important.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to get a little insight, Jennifer, into how you manage your time and how you continue learning as you're running your business, as you're playing a little bit. And to me, you've got to make time for learning. As we've just talked about, having a passion for learning is the key to the success of your future. Because if you fall behind, then I think you kind of just drop off a cliff a little bit. So how do you manage your time with all of that?
Well, I'll tell you, during the stay-at-home order and quarantine, I did both specializations for my PGA credential. So I had that extra opportunity of time to be able to get some extra learning in. But since my grandmother was a teacher, so I've always had the importance of learning. And my entire career, I've always saved 10% of my income for continuing education. And I've really used that money to continue to grow, to continue to be better. And I think that's been a great recipe for my success. It is a management tool. I do teach quite a few lessons. I have a junior golf academy. We have summer camps. But there's always time, if you make it, to continue to learn.
Yeah, and there's never a winter in California, so you're on the tee 12 months of the year. I don't want to hear it.
Rain doesn't exist.
you come to England in February, I'll show you what winter's like. I wanted to know, David, a little bit more about what you see in those coaches that you thought, what you saw in them as young players that you thought might turn them into great coaches.
Yeah, it's an instinct. I think that look, we live in an age of technology, and I mean, one of the dangers is that everybody sort of bases this game around numbers. And so if you look at so many of the great coaches through the years, I mean men and women. I mean, I remember speaking to Peggy Kirkbell a few years ago. She was obviously a fine player, but she's also a great teacher. And I think that that instinct that you have, the ability to sort of get inside somebody's head and figure out what they're thinking. We can't just necessarily stamp our thought process on an individual, because that probably, in many cases, some cases it will, but in many cases it won't work. So you've got to feel your way and find ways, and which is sort of actually my third trait, I think, as a coach, which I can bring up now anyway, which is really learning to communicate in different ways to different people, because that's the key is communication. You can, if you might have a knowledge base, but that knowledge base needs to be flexible enough. I mean, I've hated, one thing I've really disliked was the fact that I was called a method teacher. Now, method, to me, I have a philosophy, but a method really restricts you. And so a philosophy, you have your ideas and your thoughts, but look, we know, golf is a very individual sport. I mean, you look at a Bryson DeChambeau to a Tiger Woods to a Matt Woods. I mean, what is right? It's a case really of having that great instinct. And when I look at teachers, I actually, one of the tests I do for a lot of teachers to see if I think they can cut the mustard is that I don't want to teach with any form of technology, because I mean that's how they did it years gone by. The Harvey Pennocks of the world, the John Jacobs of the world, the Ernest Jones of the world, and so on. And I mean, they didn't have technology. They had intuition, they had instinct, they had ways of communicating to different people in different ways. So I think, to some extent, you can get a little bit too structured. I mean, if you're just purely using TrackMan as your basis for helping somebody improve, look, let's face it, TrackMan is essentially a ball and club analyzer. It's not a swing analyzer. And so there are different ways of being able to achieve getting the club face square at the point of contact, traveling at maximum speed down the target line. And so I think that, looking at players, it's that ability to sort of just adjust to who you are coaching. Because it may well work out fine for beginners. You got a bunch of 12 beginners there, and you all do little drills, and you do this and you do that. But if you get to a point where this person's going to need some individualized instruction, and so with all the stuff now on the internet, yes, you can learn to a certain degree, but we all know, look, first of all, people interpret things differently. People, the way they feel and what actually happens are two different things. So, I mean, the real way is being able to actually, despite, obviously the current situation where you've got to keep your social distance, but actually be able to get your hands on somebody or make a swing and illustrate what they need to feel and what to do, because, everybody's different how they receive that information. Some might be verbal learners, some might be kinesthetic, some might be auditory, it's or visual, obviously, and so it's a way of that's I think that's where it takes experience as a coach and a teacher. I mean, you get a lot of young teachers come out, all they want to do is teach tour players, and it's like, what, you need to pay your dues here. You need to go through and work with high handicapped, work with beginners, and learn how you can get that message across. And you can't just go in and teach tour players. I mean, it just doesn't work. And there is a case of that today. So I think, from our standpoint, our coaching philosophy and coaching coaches is right. Hey, do the whole gambit. It's like learning the basics. And so you can go through it and you take your time to develop. It's the same thing as a player, I mean, it's like you've got to take your time to sort of find the right formula, right recipe to be a great coach.
Yeah, absolutely, it does. And that, I see that a lot as well. Coaches fresh out of PGA school, if you like, desperate to become that tour coach without really having paid their dues in the ranks of an apprentice. You've got to learn your trade over a period of time, and you have to keep your mind open to many different areas of learning, be receptive to that. And the one thing that I have taken from having spent time with you, David, is your ability to coach the individual, even in a group setting. And for me, that's an amazing quality and you're able to dive into that knowledge base to apply the right thing to say at the right time to that individual, despite the fact you might be in a group of 50 other people. So it's been a great experience, and
but the great teachers actually didn't say a whole heck of a lot, because it's a proven fact that most people only take in maybe 10% of communication. So the other 90% is wasted anyway. So you better say what you mean in as few words as possible and get that message across.
Yeah, exactly. Jennifer, you're a great communicator. So what are some of the strategies you use to communicate well with your students?
Yeah, so I think first is, understanding the what. And I think that a lot of coaches, they know how to understand what's happening in the golf swing, and then teaching the student the why. Why is it happening? What is it about that, maybe a range of motion limitation, maybe something that's happening with them that's causing them to do that. And then I think that the most important is that the how. How are you going to get them to do what you want them to do in, again, as few as words as possible, so they understand it and they can retain it. And I think it's definitely something that you have to be very present and very, you have to listen very carefully from the words that they say. You can learn a lot about what type of learner they are just by the words that they say. That shot looked great. They're probably a visual learner. That shot sounded great. And so from there, I can kind of give them drills and teach them in a way that's going to best relate to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can gain so much actually from listening, can't we? And that's it's an area of communication that isn't overly taught, and something that we do talk a lot about actually in our Leadbetter Kids certification. So just want to take this opportunity quickly, just before we move on to the next section. If you have any questions, and obviously you're watching, then just type in a question into the text box, and if it's any good, then I will ask it.
We're always learning, Gavin. I've got my Phil Mickelson coffee here, Ethiopian coffee, right? So.
Ooh, I like Ethiopian.
Yeah, it's great. And so, but it's fairly ironic, being up at Muirfield, and I actually watched. It was interesting yesterday. I'm going completely off subject here, but never mind. Bryson DeChambeau walks off 18, he teed off 10, so he walks off 18 to 1. And there were a bunch of players putting, and they all sort of moved over towards the tee there. They could see where this tee shot finished. And this was the first hole. It was down when he hit it 423 yards.
Wow. And
so, but it's quite ironic, really. You talk about learning, and people are still, this game is still quite a mystery. So here's Bryson DeChambeau, who's put on 40 pounds, right? And Phil Mickelson's lost 40 pounds. So go figure, who's right?
Yeah, and Phil's obviously still right up there. So, it's I think what's interesting on that debate, without going too deep into it, is that it's horses for courses, and not everybody's going to be able to put on 40 pounds and do what he's doing. He's a unique talent, that's for sure. So, yeah, we'll wait for any questions to come through. Hopefully we get a couple, but I just wanted to go and touch on a couple of your experiences, David, coaching some of the girls, some of the LPGA players, and see if we could just tap into a couple of things that you've experienced, that you've had as a coach, things you've worked on specifically. Might even be vaguely entertaining for those that are watching.
maybe. Well, it's interesting. Actually, I've had the good fortune to work with 23 players who won majors, men and women. And the first major actually was a lady, her name was Kathy Baker, and she won the US Open in 1987. So I'm really dating myself here. So that was my first major.
That's the year I was born, David.
Oh, geez. Okay. All right. Anyway, but having said that, it's like it's been, my wife Kelly played on the LPGA tour for about 10 years and played in Europe, and I always say, she was a great student up until the day we got married. But anyway, that's beside the point. But so I've always had some involvement with LPGA players and work with, I mean, geez, I mean, I look at some of the players of the past that I've actually had the good fortune to work with, people like Beth Daniel and Sally Little, who really are sort of, I won't say pioneers in their game, but they were the forerunner of these young, great players today. And then I suppose my, I won't say greatest feat, I should say, but anyway, my greatest opportunity I had was to work with Seri Park. So when Seri came over here, she was 19, and it was this raw, just unbelievable athletic talent from Korea. I mean, at that point in time, there might have been one other player from Korea on the LPGA tour, but anyway, Seri, we literally worked for a year before she got her card, and I mean, that first year she won 2 majors. She won the US Open and McDonald's LPGA Championship, and so it really started I guess the gold rush, so to speak, from Korea, because people in Korea looked at Seri and seen what she'd done, and they said, okay, we found something that I think our daughters could really get their teeth into, so to speak. And actually prior to that, it was actually music and piano. They had a world-class pianist, and a lot of the youngsters then took up piano. But interesting, I mean, I think last year at the US Open, they had about 47 players from Korea. So they've really taken to it like a duck to water. It's amazing, and Seri really was the pioneer. So that was really exciting. I worked with Seri for about 3 years, and it was a fun time. And I mean, I remember going back to Korea with her. I mean, she was just like a rock star. I mean, it was it was nice. We didn't have to go through custom or anything; just walk right through. So but and so I've had then working with players who, I mean, like Michelle Wee, for instance. Michelle, I worked since she was 13, and so more than half her life, I tell her now. But here was a talent that I'd never seen before. I mean, literally having worked with young players like Charles Howell and Aaron Badley and stuff, but never had I seen anybody at that age, boy or girl, who was able to hit the ball like Michelle. I mean, literally, they called her the big Wheezy after Ernie, Big Easy. And so, I mean, she literally pumped them out there 300 yards. That's why there was all this talk about her playing on the men's tour. And, I mean, she's had a reasonably successful career, but nothing like that she could have had. I mean, she had so many injuries, and I think that's one of the things that we're learning now, that, we've got to be very careful with kids, bringing them on. They've got young bodies, young bones that are developing, and you've got to be really careful. And I think if you look back, most of Michelle's woes were really the injuries that she probably sustained when she was very young, and you grow into your injuries, so to speak. So I work with probably maybe 4 girls on the LPGA now, and it's including this young phenom Maria Fassi from Mexico, who's got 108 miles an hour club head speed, and so she's going to be a real star in my opinion. But it's a lot of people ask me, is it different working with LPGA girls compared to PGA girls? I think there may be a few more emotions involved and one thing or another, but I don't try to make it any different really. I mean, look, they're great athletes in their own right. I don't think the LPGA get the kudos that they should do. I think, the prize money is getting better, but it's nowhere near what the men's is. I like the idea, like in tennis, where the men and the women are playing for equal prize money in the majors, and I think that should be something that should be looked at. But it is what it is, and obviously, hopefully, things will change. But it's fun working with them. I mean, because we have a good time. A lot of these girls are young enough to be my daughters, and so on and so forth. And so the standard of golf on the LPGA now is just amazing, and you just look at it. It's great to see, say, all these countries from all over the world. Look at the Jitanagans from Thailand and all these countries. I mean, it's and I think I think hopefully the next wave is going to come from the US. So with passionate coaches like Jennifer here, and hopefully our association with LPGA, we can really, help take girls golf in this country to the next level, because they've got the athletes, they've got the resources, and so I think it's high time that they step up. And it's a mindset more than anything else. You've got to get one or two doing it, and people like Nelly Porter, for instance, who I've had an involvement with. I mean, these are the young stars of the future, and I think hopefully that's going to bring these youngsters into the game. So yeah, I mean, I love teaching the LPGA girls. It's a lot of fun going out there. It's maybe it's a little not quite as high key maybe as on the men's tour, but having said that, I mean, look, they're very, very competitive, that's for sure. And so the LPGA golf is in a good place right now.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it, and I think we'll see certainly a lot of younger talent coming out in the next 3 or 4 years, and the challenge, I guess, the Korean girls that seem to have dominated for a little while. I've got a couple of questions for you, David. What's the biggest challenge you've faced or continue to face as an instructor, and how have you overcome it or overcoming it currently?
I think the biggest challenge is that everybody wants to get good quickly. And, excuse me. Yeah, there's a lot of information out there now. And if you look at the world of golf, okay, forget professional golf. I mean, that's a very small percentage of golfers, let's face it. But if you take your average golfer, I think a lot of instruction can be very confusing, because there's actually less time for people to play and practice than they've had in the past. I mean, these things don't allow people to sort of relax and go and play golf. It's nice when golf clubs don't allow phones on the course, because people can then actually focus and relax. And so that being the case, I mean, I'm all about learning and understanding and what have you, but I know, we need to learn as coaches and teachers as much as we can to teach as simply as we can. And I think part of the problem for me is that I see a lot of coaching and teaching these days is way, way too complex, especially for the average golfer. Look, if you're talking to Bryson DeChambeau, that's one thing. But you're talking to your average golfer who plays once a week and just wants to eliminate his or her slice, or get the ball airborne, or get another 10 yards on their tee shots. Well, that's a whole different ball game. And so we need to keep it pretty simple. And, I always say to our young teachers, look, you don't need to tell everybody everything you know. I mean, it's like, that's the worst thing you can do. I mean, just to show, well, I know a lot about the swing. I know a lot about the game. Well, a lot of people don't need that. They just want something simple. I mean, it's like, that's why people still look at tips in magazines and what have you, because they think, oh, that tip really helped, and well, that one didn't work, I'm going to try another one next month, sort of thing. But and that's the way it goes. And so I think that it's a little players get a little bit too analytical. The old John Jacobs philosophy, paralysis through analysis, applies to a lot of people. And and I'm guilty. I mean, look, when you bring out a bunch of books and videos over the years, I mean, it's like Callaway bringing out a new driver. Well, this is a heck of a lot better than last year's model, and so which in many cases, I have to say Callaway's are, but okay, that's their little plug for the show. But I think we just have to. It's as I said earlier, it's all about being able to communicate in a simple way. And I think a lot of the players I work with, I like. I mean, tour players. I mean, I used to travel a lot out on tour, with the men and women. And I don't do that as much these days. So a lot of the players I like to coach are what I would call low maintenance players. Okay, just give them what they need to do. Okay, maybe they send you some stuff over the internet and you look at it, and okay, that's it. Because once you've, I don't know how you think, Jeff, but once you've laid out a blueprint for somebody, you may change, a drill here or there or a field here or there, but that's the blueprint's a blueprint. And I mean, the players I've worked with, I mean, essentially, you're still working on pretty much the same stuff you did when you first started with them. I mean, maybe a 6-year-old is going to be a little different to a 16-year-old, if you work with them for that long. But still, the blueprint is there, and you've got to stick at it. And I think the deal is trying to convince the player, listen, this is all you need to do. Yes, you'll have your highs and lows, but you don't want to keep looking for something. Okay, well, maybe I should change my swing completely. I mean, that's happened over the years with players, and it's been disastrous in many instances. So, learn with, you learned this, you were brought up with this, and so, hey, we'll tweak it here or there. And so that's probably the most frustrating thing. And so, and the other thing is trying to, you probably are very aware of this, Jennifer, is sometimes keeping the parents out of it. Okay, the parents, I mean, God bless them, they want to get involved and they want to help. And I will say, listen, help, guide, but don't teach. Leave it to me. Okay, let me set the parameters here, because it's confusing for the kids. And we know, look, I know with my kids, they sure as heck didn't listen to me. So, why would they listen to some parent who might not even play golf? So it's so it's that's probably the other slightly frustrating, and we're dealing with it now just because of the fact that more kids are getting involved in the game. So I think it behooves us to, Vision 54, Pia Nielsen and her partner, Lynn Marriott, they brought a great little book, for parents. And because our job really is somehow to train parents. We're like, hey, just chill, relax. They're not going to win the US Open tomorrow. Let them have fun, and let's see how they develop, and keep the passion going. Because sometimes, it's true. Some parents, really squelch their kids' passion because they don't enjoy it anymore. It's not like fun to them. It's like a job. And so, hey, they become really good college players and they become professional. Then it becomes more of a job. But at a young age, it still needs to be fun.
Yeah, we can dive down a very, very big rabbit hole there, David, and it's quite timely that we kind of draw that to a conclusion. I mean, we have two awesome pieces of parent education on the university platform. One is called Engaging the Parent, which is for coaches, and then we have another course which is specifically for parents, which is called the Champion Parent. And it was written with some experts, obviously with David's input and my input. I mean, my boys are 22, one plays professionally, the other one's 18, off to college. So I've lived it as a parent and a coach as well, and documented so many of my experiences with that. So we have that, and many other courses for so many LPGA professionals and girls golf site directors, and you can access that two ways. One, the first way is LPGA monthly.learn.leadbetter.com, and then LPGA annually.learn.leadbetter.com, and we'll answer any questions that you might have if you wish to get in touch through that portal as well. Just thanks also to everybody that's asked a question. We'll get back to you offline with those, because I don't want David to be talking about these answers for about 4 or 5 hours with the questions that we've had. So I really appreciate that. We'd love to connect and stay in touch with everybody. Instagram and Facebook at Leadbetter Kids Golf. We'd love to hear from you. And if you want to connect with Jennifer, it is golf_coach_Jen on Instagram. Go and connect with Jennifer there, and you'll see some of the great work that she's doing. But listen, guys, thanks very much for spending some time with us. We are celebrating the partnership between Leadbetter Golf Academy and the LPGA. Hopefully we get to connect with so many great LPGA professionals over the next few days, weeks, months, and years, and really tighten this relationship down, all at the end of the day for the benefit of these great students. I'll just hand over to you guys for one final thought. Jennifer, any final thoughts?
Well, thank you for having me on, and I can look forward to continuing to learn from David. And I've been fortunate to have so many great mentors in my life, and I look forward to adding David to my village. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. And I just admire what you've done. That's great. And the game is in good hands with people such as yourself, I'll tell you. So keep up that great, passionate work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Well, thanks again. Thank you to everybody that's watching. Appreciate your time. And if you need anything, then connect with us through the website platform. And yeah, we look forward to catching up with you all soon. Thanks, guys. Take care. Good luck.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.